أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله، صلى الله عليك وعلى أهل بيتك المعصومين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم: وقوله الحق وهو أصدق الصادقين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة. Sweeten your gathering with a remembrance of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. As a gift to the soul of Sayyidina wa Mawlana wa Azimina wa Habibi Qulubina Rasulullah and his honorable and purified progeny, recite the second salawat. For Allah to shower onto this gathering with His infinite mercy and compassion, to hasten the reappearance of Sayyidina wa Mawlana Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, recite the third salawat with the loudest of your voices. This world has indeed become a lonely place. Many people around the world suffer from loneliness, and sometimes this feeling of loneliness becomes so intense that people feel like giving up on life. They no longer enjoy or desire living. Loneliness does not only occur for people who are alone, meaning they have no family, they have no friends, they have no one to talk to, They have no one to converse with. But similarly, people surrounded by family and friends. People surrounded by individuals who they can talk to experience loneliness. And I believe that is the greatest form of loneliness. Because when you're alone, when you have no one, you automatically prepare yourself for the feeling of loneliness. But those who are surrounded by people, those who are surrounded by family and friends, their loneliness is much more intense. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a reference to this within the Holy Quran in many occasions. One, which is my personal favorite, is the 12th chapter from the Holy Quran. Surah Yusuf. Yusuf, his father was Yaqub. Yaqub was a prophet of God, the most honorable man in his town. Not only that, he had many children, many supporters. And he realized that his son Yusuf is gifted. He's special. And as a prophet of God, I assume that he also knew that the prophet after him will be Yusuf. So when Yusuf saw the dream at a very young age, and he went to his father and he told his father that, "Oh father, I have seen this dream." And his father knew that this dream was extremely special. He says, "Ya bunayya, oh my beloved son, oh my dear son, la taqsus ru'yaka ala ahadin." Do not tell anybody of this dream. Because that child is young, he's innocent. He doesn't know that people around him, his own blood and his own relatives, may be jealous of him. They may not desire the best for him. We don't know such things when we're young and innocent. لا تقصص رؤياك على أحد فيكيدوا لك كيدا. They'll plot against you. And while we're at the station, I find that a lot of people don't know why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins the 12th chapter with a dream. They're confused. They think that Islam is a religion based on dreams. So that when you tell them Islam is not based on dreams, Islam is based on facts, they tell you about Yusuf, chapter 12 of the Holy Quran. The whole story of Yusuf begins with a dream. The reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala descended the 12th chapter and began the story with this dream of Yusuf, and he similarly then speaks of the dream of Ibrahim. Ya bunayya, again Ibrahim speaks to his son. This was Yusuf speaking to his father. Here's Ibrahim speaking to his son, Ismail. He says to his son, Ya bunayya, oh my beloved son, oh my beloved child, Inni ara fil manami anni adbahuk. I saw in my dream a calling from God that I must give you and offer you as a sacrifice. فانظر ماذا ترى. What do you think? His son, without hesitation, says to him, Ya abati, oh my father, افعل ما تؤمر. Execute the command of Allah. ما تؤمر. This amr comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If'al ma tu'mar. And it's not going to be easy. However, satajiduni. You will find me, insha'Allah, min as-sabirin. Amongst those who exercise patience. Again, there is a reference to a dream. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to tell the Muslim community then that the dreams of prophets is a form of revelation, is a form of wahi. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came to them and informed them of a dream that he had, they don't say to him, well, it's just a dream. Why should you care so much about just a dream? And Rasulullah spoke of his dream. Some traditions, some Muslim historians have written that after he saw this dream, he never smiled. Rasulullah was full of smiles and joy. What was his dream? In his dream, he says that I found monkeys hopping on my mimbar. Go read about this dream. It is mentioned in all the books of history. However, Allah is also distinguishing my dream from the dream of prophets. Because some people, I know them, they have a dream every night. And every night this dream must mean something. And when you tell them this dream doesn't mean anything, they get upset. I remember some lady asked me about a dream. I told her I don't know what this dream means. And then a few days later she asked me about another one. I said, I also don't know what this one means. And then she also asked me about a third one. She said, say it, but 10 years, 14 years you spent in the house. What were you doing? I said, I was not studying the knowledge of interpreting dreams. I kid you not, I have received emails, people writing 5, 6, 7 pages of their dream. And then saying, I follow Sayyid Sistani, please interpret this dream in accordance to his fatwa. Let us not base our life, our decisions, our faith, our ideology on dreams. When we have facts, when we have ilm. We don't need to resort to dreams when you have Nahjul Balagha. We don't need to resort to dreams when you have the Holy Quran. We don't need to resort to dreams when you have Qala al-Baqir, Qala al-Sadiq. Those are facts. So Allah in the Holy Quran describes the surah of Yusuf, telling us that this man, though he was surrounded by his father and his brother, he experienced loneliness at an early age, to a point where his father had noticed on this. He says, oh son, protect yourself. Don't go around telling everything to everyone. And we have many traditions, brothers and sisters, from our A'immah that teach us, don't speak of everything to everyone. Protect your secrets, protect your privacy, protect your life. And especially, don't share good news with everyone. Why, you may ask? I'll tell you why. We're about to engage in this topic tonight. So the brothers, they eavesdrop and they hear the dream. So they go and tell one another, Yusufu ahabbu ila abina minna. It's obvious that our father loves Yusuf more than he loves us. So let's plot something for him. Then they went to the father and they said, oh father, we want to take Yusuf with us today, camping. And the father, he's stuck. If he says yes, he's in trouble. If he says no, he's in trouble. So he says, okay, take him, but take care of him. Look after him. Do not trouble him. And what do? They go and they slaughter a sheep. They stain his shirt with the blood. They take the shirt back to the father and they throw Yusuf in the well. The traditions tell us when Yusuf was going with his brothers, 11 brothers, he was joyful. So Jibreel comes to him, he says, Yusuf, why are you so joyful? Why are you so jolly? Why are you so happy? Because Jibreel, he knows the plan, he knows what's coming. He says to him, because I have 11 brothers. I have my father as Yaqub. They're looking after me, they're taking care of me. Who's going to touch me? I am untouchable. Then they threw him in the well. في غيابة الجب. غيابة means he was in غيبة. They could not even see him. Because it was a big one, a big well. Then Jibreel went to give him solace. He says to him, Yusuf, again here in the depth of this bi'r, this well, you're again joyful? You're smiling? He says, yes. He says, why? He says, because when I was coming, I thought I have my brothers and my family and my reputation and our family business, but now I have a moment of realization here. I could not have it there. What is the moment of realization? I have no one but Allah. This is making me smile. And Imam Zayn al-Abidin and Dua Jawad al-Kabir alludes to this as well. Imam, as if he knows that the majority of earth will feel lonely. Today, if you go and you read numbers and polls, you find that in the United States of America, in Christmas, in New York City, all the world travels to New York City so that they can see the Rockefeller Center, right? Because it's so joyful, it's so beautiful. You see, it's the most romantic, most magical place, Christmas time. And then people are traveling and giving gifts and families. Numbers and polls indicate that the loneliest place for the citizens of New York is the time of Christmas. Some of them commit suicide. Suicide is on the rise during Christmas in New York. Look at the reality. Why? Because they feel that we feel lonely. Nobody understands me. I have no one to talk to. There are people who are receiving gifts, but I have no family. When in a society you ought to leave your home at the age 18. Okay, by the time you're 25, you miss your parents. You miss your family. You miss your grandparents. You miss your relatives. And even when they go back, they stay at a hotel. They don't stay at their parents. Some people that try to move back, in COVID, a lot of people had to move back with their parents. Parents say you have to pay rent if you stay in my home. So they feel lonely. Imam Zayn al-Abidin and Dua Jawad al-Kabir, he says, Ya jalisa man dakara. You have no friend, you have no one to talk to. As soon as you talk to Allah, He's your jalis. He's with you. Ya habiba man la habiba lah. He's the beloved of those who have no beloveds. Wa ya tabiba man la tabiba lah. And if you need remedy, He's the one that gives you remedy. He's there for you. And many people, brothers and sisters, believe that the only way to escape loneliness is to be with someone, a special someone, I mean. And that is true. We all need someone, a special someone. We need to love, we need to be loved. So they establish families. And that is something beautiful in the religion of Islam. Islam encourages marriage, does not encourage celibacy. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam says, Man tazawwaja faqad ahraza nisfa dineh. Whoever marries, he guarantees half of his faith. She guarantees half of her faith. من تزوج فقد أحرز نصف دينه فليتق الله في النصف الآخر. وقال الإمامان الهمامان الباقر والصادق عليهما السلام ركعتان يصليهما متزوج أفضل من 70 ركعة يصليها أعزب. They have stated, Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sadiq, that 2 rak'ah read by a person who is married is more significant than 70 rak'ah of salah than a person who is not married. But that should not be a way for us to escape loneliness, and I will tell you why. Allah alludes to this in the Holy Quran. Today, studies indicate that 6 out of 10, again a staggering number, of people who are married still feel lonely. But they're not willing to admit it because it's something very strange to admit. I am married, I have kids, but I feel lonely. I am married, I have a husband, but I feel lonely. And like I said, they feel it the most because nobody will understand them. If they come out and say, look, I feel lonely. So what do you mean you feel lonely? You have a wife, you have children. You're a grandpa, you're a grandma. You feel lonely? Yes. I do. I feel I'm not understood. I feel I'm underappreciated. Zayd, who was the adopted son of Rasulullah, married Zainab bint Jahsh. Many of you have heard the story. And Zainab was one of the most beautiful people, inside out. And Zayd was the adopted son of Rasulullah, so he was a good man. And they had fights all the time. All the time they come to Rasulullah, we want a divorce. We cannot live with each other. We don't understand each other. There is no harmony in our marriage. If this happens to me and you today, what do? Right away we want to choose sides to see who is the good one and who is the bad one. And we believe one of them has got to have less iman. If we work on their iman, then this problem will be resolved. Allah says in the Quran that's not the case. Because Zainab had iman and she was a good woman, and Zayd had iman and he was a good man. And what was the result? Allah says in the Holy Quran, the result was that they were divorced. They were separated. So Allah says, I know of cases, and I will mention cases and bring up cases of good people who were married, but they had to go their separate ways, and there is nothing wrong with that. Let us not always try to take sides and bring one down on the expense of the other. Really, sometimes two good people cannot live with each other. And they deserve better. And they deserve to be happy. They don't deserve to live in agony. Nobody deserves to live in agony, in misery. And if you look at the world today, the dynamics of the world has changed in the way we think and the way we behave. And that is something extremely important that I want you all to pay attention to. For the past 23 years, since the year 2000, a show has been airing in the world called The Bachelor. And a few years later, they started The Bachelorette. So people who are 23 years old, they know this world through the lens of The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. It is the most viewed series on American television in its history. Each episode generates about 10 million views, 2 million tweets. People talking about what happened on The Bachelor's show. So what is this Bachelor's show? For those who don't know. The Bachelor is a guy who comes on the show, and there are thousands and thousands of girls who apply to get onto the show. So there is a team that select 25 out of the 1,000 applicants, most beautiful, most, exotic, smart, funny, 25 of them, and they bring them onto this house, this bachelor's pad. And this man, he's ought to choose one out of the 25. So there is an ongoing war every day amongst the girls on this one guy. And they fight, huh? It's a real fight to win the bachelor, and then in the end he just gives one a flower. And out of the 25, and the 24 other ones, no good. Go home. Losers. And somehow this is called reality TV. I tell you, it is far from reality. No man will have 25 selected women running after him, ever. I don't care who you are, okay? And in the end, the winning one just gets one flower, and she's happy with it. But this has played a role on people's minds. People keep up. There's something called the Bachelor's Nation now. That's ex-bachelors and bachelorettes. What are they doing? What car are they driving? What are they eating? Where are they sleeping? This nonsense, people waste their life. And then they saw, okay, this is as crazy as it is. People like this show, so they started the Bachelorette. And it's the exact opposite. 25 men, I should not call them men, 25 fools fighting over one woman. And they're punching each other, fighting with each other. One of them is getting kicked out of the house. The other one is doing this. So that in the end, this woman, who's normally, a blondie, she gives them a flower. And this is reality TV. And this is somehow supposed to be romantic. I don't know what's romantic about this. In fact, if anything, this is the most disrespectful show to human beings. Most demeaning show. Look how today our paradigms have shifted. When a woman wears hijab and she has honor and dignity, and her priority is family, they come and tell you, you Muslims, you oppress your woman. Why? Because she protects her body against foreign men. But this woman who exposes everything and she's running after one man and she's fighting, this is romantic? And somehow we fall into this trap? That is why we constantly have to speak about this shift of paradigms between what Hollywood is offering and reality, because this is not reality. Reality is those guys today in their early 30s. They're probably on like 75 different dating apps trying to find a date. Not having 25 girls running after them. That's reality. People are happy. Imagine you go to a hospital, right? And you're by the ICU, and you're waiting for a loved one. She's in surgery, and your mother is in surgery, and you're very nervous. You're waiting, right? And there's rowdy kids just yelling and screaming and being fussy, and their father is sitting there and he's just looking at them. So after a while you go to him, you say, "Sir, come on. What are you doing? You need to keep your kids quiet. This is a hospital, we're waiting. We're agitated, we're nervous, we're stressed." Your first paradigm, initial paradigm, is that this is a horrible father. He's not disciplining his kids. The kids are rowdy, the kids are horrible. And he says to you, "Sir, but they have just lost their mother now. and I don't know how to break the news to them. I'm just thinking. I'm in a different world. What happens? You have a complete shift in paradigm. Now, not only you want to show love to those kids, you feel sorry for him, you're trying to help him, you say, oh, that's okay then. It's no problem, let them be. When we watch Hollywood, when we watch those films, afterwards we have to have a complete shift of paradigms. Who gives you that? The Quran. Truly, the Quran keeps us balanced. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. The Quran will bring that balance into your life. That is why we're in need of the Quran. Not only in the month of Ramadan. Every single day of our life, we're in need of the guidance of the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we ought to have a relationship with the Holy Quran. And today I find people suffering in their marriages. Why? Because they get married, number one, when they are not ready, and number two, for the wrong reasons. What does it mean when we are not ready? We're not ready to share happiness and joy with others if we're not joyful within us, if we're not content within ourselves. We need to work on ourselves before we can handle others. Some of us, we cannot handle our own selves mentally. How can we bring someone else into our lives and make their life miserable? That is unfair. I said this the other night. No one's responsible for your happiness. Not your Romeo, not your Juliet, not your parents, not your siblings, not your high school teacher, not your friends. Nobody's going to make decisions on your behalf that will make you happy. Nobody's going to exercise on your behalf and live a healthy life on your behalf. Nobody's going to think as a successful person on your behalf. Nobody's going to quit depression on your behalf. Nobody's going to rise to the occasion on your behalf. Those are things that you have to do on yourself, by yourselves. As long as you may feel, you have to learn to stand, not to give up, to fight on, to be strong. So I see some people, they're not ready for marriage. But then they get themselves involved in marriage, and that marriage will always have trouble. Also, when you're not in the right mindset of marriage, some people feel that marriage is the ultimate source of joy and happiness. Oh, if I get married, I'm going to be living in Disneyland all the time. Well, guess what? That's not the case, right? I don't want to say more, but that's not the case. Marriage has ups and downs. Marriage has difficulties. And you have to be ready to maneuver around them, to be flexible, to be forgiving, especially forgiveness. You must forgive and forgive and forgive when you're in family. Or else a family will shatter, it will break. If a father is not forgiving, if a mother is not forgiving, if a husband is not forgiving, if a wife is not forgiving, you will not have marriage. You will not have family. Why do you think the reward is so great? Because the challenge is great. The reward when your prayer is multiplied by 70, because there's a challenge. It's not easy. When you live in the West and you live in America and you have a fight with your wife, you leave work everywhere. Do you want a divorce? Do you need a divorce? Do you need a divorce lawyer? And as soon as you call them, divorce papers are being emailed. Just sign them and send them back. Changing husband, changing wife is something normal. Not too long ago, I met with a reverend, a Christian reverend. We were speaking, and suddenly he says to me, "This is my 6th wife." He's a reverend. So imagine if the reverend has 6 divorces, how many in the congregation will have? In Islam, we ought to protect our families. There is no more sanctified and beloved institution in the religion of Islam above family. More beloved to Allah above family. Family in the religion of Islam always comes first. First is Allah, then family. Even with charity. If you have charity, and your family is in need, and you give it to someone else, that charity is batil. فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ وَلِلرَّسُولِ وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى. His cousin doesn't have a car, doesn't have a motorbike, doesn't have a mean of communication, and he gives it to someone else. Why? Because I don't like this guy. There's no such thing. Allah has rules. Allah has made it known for us how to run our affairs. He's given you more, and He's given your cousin less. It is your responsibility to look after him. It is your responsibility to look after your parents when they are older. It is your responsibility to look over your siblings, your aunts, your uncles, and this is the time, the month of Ramadan, the month of Salatul Rahim. Go look for your family members that are struggling. And sometimes you don't, the whole family, mashallah, has wealth. But charity is not just with wealth. They're in need of your love. They're in need of your companionship. They're in need of your word. They're in need for you to call them, to check in with them, to listen to them, to appreciate them. That's also a form of Salatul Rahim and Sadaqah. If you have extra love to give, first comes your family. If you have extra time to give, first comes your wife, not your friends. First come your children, not your friends. I know people who live an extremely selfish lifestyle. He wants everything for himself. But not the children, not the wife, as if they're foreigners in his household. This is wrong. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ. The best of you are the best to his wife and children. We don't know. We see people from the outside and they're so nice, they're so kind, they're so generous, they're so hospitable. But in the house is Azrael. Astaghfirullah, Azrael is an angel of Allah. He's Hitler. Rasulullah says, خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ. The best of you is the best to his family. That's why, as a joke, they say, if you want to trust the Mawlana, really, see if his wife prays behind him. His wife prays behind him, he's good man. It's the truth. How are we at home? How is our dealing with our children? Let's not treat the home like a boot camp. It's my way or the highway. No, this home is shared space. Your wife is not working, she's taking care of the family, but then she does not also need to come and ask you for money. She should not be asking you for funds. She should not be asking you, oh, take us to a vacation, take us out. let's enjoy life. Should be the other way around. And generosity, brothers and sisters, always starts from the house. Not lavishness, don't get me wrong, because some people, you go in their house, purchase $200,000 of furniture, but you come and you tell him there's a tam, he says give $200. It's not mix the two. Generosity is one thing, taking care of your family is one thing, being selfish is another thing. And also the wife has to be generous with her husband. Not financially. Because every time we talk about such things, people, all we think about is money, because now this is how we have been programmed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ. And amongst His signs, His greatest signs, the ayat of Allah, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, that He created you in pairs, men and women. Na'udhu billah, not men and men, woman and woman. وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. So that you can find peace. I tell you today, peaceful homes, homes with tranquility are rare to find. All over the world you find people looking for happiness in their home. So how do we attain happiness within the home? Sukuna. Comfort. That's how it's translated. Comfort. First and foremost, there has to be a spiritual connection, intimacy. Sukuna is intimacy. And when we speak of intimacy, we only think of one intimacy. That's not the case. Intimacy is on many levels. One of them is spiritual. One of them is mental. And one of them is physical. And I only say this about the physical. The physical does not only begin in privacy. It begins all day. With words, with gestures, with... Anyhow. But mentally, there has to be intimacy. As a family, we should read books together. We should look at lectures together. We should observe hadiths together. Read tafsir al-Quran together and sit and discuss. Not only that, when the affairs of the family, let's discuss. Teach your children from a young age that they are free to express themselves. You may disagree with them, but let them express. Because this gives them confidence. Because they feel, I am confident, I can express myself. I'm not afraid of my father. Where do you want to take a vacation? Speak about this, discuss it. When it comes to a charitable institution, I spoke about this privately last night with some friends. If you are a charitable man, if you are a charitable woman, you must teach that to your children. Tell them, this year's charity is going to this cause. Why? Because of such and such. Because of this and this. Explain to them. So that when your kids grow up, they're not only thinking of themselves, but they're also thinking of others. When you give them their Eid gifts, teach them that Allah has given your father the ability to give you $100. But you should take some of that and give it to the poor. And don't give them an extra 20 and say you give this to the poor. No, don't do that. Overspoiling your children, it does not mean you're doing them something good. Wallah, this does not mean that you will ensure their happiness. I cannot re-emphasize on this point. Do not overspoil your children. Love them. Take care of them. Like I said, don't be a Hitler with them, but don't overspoil them. Sometimes, some fathers, their role into the house is they are ATM machines. They're sitting there, presses a button, boom, cash comes out. What about when your child hits reality and they go out to the real world? And now they're surprised that not everybody agrees with them. Making money is not easy. And they have to be wise when spending money. And there is a reality check. What happens then? Have you trained them for that? Many parents have not trained their children for reality. Tell them, take some of this money and give it to the poor. Give it to a good cause. Give it towards the propagation of the religion of Islam. Teach them. So first and foremost, there has to be mental intimacy. And then there has to be spiritual intimacy as well. So that the physical intimacy is going to be different than the intimacy of animals. Because we're not animals. وَكَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Allah has distinguished His creation, Bani Adam, because we have the ruh, we have the nafs, and we have the aql. I see some people, he's on a spiritual high, but his wife is on a spiritual low. Vice versa. That's because they're not connecting with each other when it comes to spiritual. Their spiritual existence. That is why it's important, brothers and sisters, for us to gather, especially in Ramadan and Muharram, with our family. And the institutions must be aware of this. Conducting the majalis, when they separate the family, this is a problem. It's a problem. When you separate the father and he's sitting in the front, and the children are in the back, but then they sneak out and they are on their social media. And they separate the woman, they put them in a different hall and it's loud and they can't hear, so they stop attending. The masjid, this gathering is meant to bring families together, not to separate families. You see what I'm saying? But if you drive as a family and you drive back as a family and you're speaking about your spiritual experience, it's a completely different ballgame. And you find people in the hierarchy making major decisions not aware of this. And they are aware of it, but they still go against it. And when making a decision on who comes, it's a few people. Few people who have deep pockets, they're in charge. They bring the people who they want to speak to the audience, not the audience. And the message that they want for it to be dispensed and given, not what the needs of the audience dictate. And that's why you go to masajid and they're empty. There's no one there. One person, one member of the family is here and the other one is here and the children are in hookah cafes. We have destroyed our institutions. We have not helped our families. I tell you, brothers and sisters, Allah is everywhere. It's not just in the Imam Barga and the masajid. Where you can come together in remembrance of Allah as a family, that's where Allah is. That's where you should be. And it's a struggle. It's a struggle to let people know that, brothers, sisters, we have to fight this wave, this campaign against family and family values that is spreading all over the world, trying to demolish and undervalue the importance of family. Therefore, in our institutions, we have to make a plan of how do we bring families. How do we build families? How to create families? When those young men and young women are not meeting in the masjid. You know, somebody told me, he says, we take our children to high school there in the West, in America, and we tell them this John and, Mike and all those guys, Robert, and you speak to them, but you cannot marry them. But when we take them to the masjid, we say, Muhammad Ali Akbar Asghar. You marry them, but you do not speak with them. It sounds funny, but in reality we should cry. Because I see today good girls in our community, they're suffering. There's no marriage. Guys, I see him 35 years old, I say, why you're not married? He says, no good girls in our community. I don't know anyone in my community. This breaks the heart of Rasulullah, our Imam. But in the structure that we have created, families are not being created. In fact, sometimes families are divided. And when we come to Ahlul Bayt, with this I want to conclude, and I thank everyone for being here on time. I think some people were afraid the door will be closed, so they didn't show up when they were late. But it's good. We need punctuality. We need to show seriousness. When you look at the Ahlul Bayt, we always talk about, they're mystical, holy, this, that. But look at them as a family. Look at them as a family. What do we learn? Why is it that Qasim ibn al-Hasan is so attached to his uncle? Why is it that Ali al-Akbar is so attached to his uncle, to his father? Why is it that Abu al-Fadl Abbas is so attached to his brother? Why? Why is it that Fatima Zahra is so attached to her father? Why is it that Hassan and Hussein are so attached to their grandfather? Why? Let's go and read. Wallah, the solution, if we offer it to people outside Islam, they will say this is the greatest family. We want to emulate them. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he's giving the khutbah. The Muslims are sitting. And Imam Hassan is running and he falls and he trips and he starts crying. Rasulullah says, excuse me folks. He descends the minbar, he goes and he picks up his grandson and he holds him and he delivers the sermon. And you want that grandson not to love his grandfather? Imam Hussein, Rasulullah is passing in front of the house of Fatima Zahra and he hears Imam Hussein crying. He knocks at the door. Fatima says, yes, ya Abata, what can I help you with? And the kid's crying. So you can't just have a kid that's never cried, right? He says, Ya Fatima, أما تعلمين أن بكاءه يحزنني? Don't you know that when he cries, I'm saddened? I cannot tolerate his cries. Look at Hadith al-Kisa and the way they speak to each other. The way they seek permission from one another. The way they love one another. The way they pray for one another. Is there nothing to be learned from there? We just read Hadith al-Kisa as a tape player? And we don't understand what we're saying? And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, when he sees his beloved grandson Imam al-Hussein, what would he do? He would sit Imam al-Hussein in his lap, he would put his neck up, he would say to him, Hussein, I want to see your neck. Then he would kiss the neck of Hussein. And then he would open up his shirt and he would kiss the chest of Hussein. And he says, أحب الله من أحب حسين. حسين مني وأنا من حسين. أحب الله من أحب حسينا. That is why on the 10th of Muharram, As-Sayyida Zainab, she shifted towards Medina. She says, صلى عليك مليك السماء. Or the one who Allah has sent his salat on. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي. Sayyida Zainab says, صلت عليك مليك السماء. The angels and Allah, they send their salawats onto you. Or the one who's in Medina. صلت عليك مليك السماء. هذا الحسين مرمل بالدماء مسلوب العمامة والرداء. This Hussein of yours, your beloved, He is now left all alone on the sands of Karbala. Not only his amama, but his head was severed from his body. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And this Imam al-Hussein, when he was leaving Medina, he went to his grandfather. He stood in front of the grave of his grandfather. He says, ضمني عندك يا جدا. Oh my beloved grandfather, I am Hussein, and today I have no amnesty anywhere, not in your city in Medina. I have no amnesty in Mecca. Open this grave and allow me to come. ضمني يا جدا عندك في هذا الضريح. Take me in your ضريح. علني يا جد من بلوى زماني أستريح. Ya Rasulullah, where are you to give comfort to me, to see my state now, to see the state of your religion? Then he cried and he cried and he cried until he fell asleep. There he saw Rasulullah in his dream. فعلى من جانب القبر بكاء ونحيب بافتجاع ونياح يا حبيبي يا حسين. All those who love Hussein, all those who their Habib is Hussein with Rasulullah. Ya Habibi, Ya Hussein. What is it, Ya Rasulullah? What must I do? Just like Ibrahim says to his son, Rasulullah says to his beloved Hussein, however, Ya Rasulullah, Allah sent a calf to Ibrahim, but Hussein had to be left for 3 days. بلا غسل ولا كفن. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا Allah. 10 times with the loudest of your voices, brothers and sisters, wherever you are. We have ill ones, we have hajat, we have people in the Muslim community that need our dua. You have those who have passed away from your family and friends who are in need of your dua. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. Keep your hands up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma adkhil ala ahli al-qubur as-surur. اللهم شافي وعافي كل مريض. اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك. اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك. اللهم اقض عنا الدين واجرنا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم أشبع كل جائع. اللهم اكسو كل عريان. Allah, oh Allah, we give the thawab of this majlis to the soul of all the marhumeen, all the mu'mineen, all the mu'minat, from your families, from your friends, from your loved ones. We give to their soul the thawab of Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha ma'a salawat.
Can you recite the dua shifa 3 times?